to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Who do we have on?
I have Justin on.
Bridget
Stone? Okay.
Yep.
and Ryan. Mr. Glad.
Okay. And just curious, have you heard from Chris or Jen?
I did not.
All right. We're going to get started. First item for the commission to consider and act on minutes from the February 15th meeting. Everyone get a chance to take a look at them?
Yes.
Any corrections? All right, hearing none, they are accepted. I did not see any emails?
No.
Nothing?
None.
Okay. Moving right into new business. We have Aaron Russell on behalf of St. Thomas Aquinas Catholic Church, a request for a 50% not-for-profit discount annually for using the Veterans Park tennis courts. Is Aaron here?
You're standing in front.
Yes, I'm standing in front. I'm
Okay.
Where would you like me to stand?
And I'm just going to, a general announcement, if you're presenting, if you would, introduce yourself, and for the record, just give Kelly your address.
Sure. My name is Lori Stefanowicz. I'm the president of the St. Thomas Aquinas Board, and here will be my...
Where do you live?
My address. 205 South Street in Fairfield.
Kevin Curran, St. Thomas Aquinas School. I live at 149 Thorn Mill Lane.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time this evening, and we just wanted to give you some background regarding our request. You should have possibly received a very detailed letter kind of outlining the reasons for our request, but just to summarize a few. So we are looking for a permanent, as you mentioned, non-for-profit discount of about 50% on an annual basis to use the tennis courts at Veterans Park. At St. Thomas, we run a 6-week program, which is about 24 hours in total, from 2:30 to 4:30 in the afternoon as an introduction to tennis, to get people familiar with the sport, excited about playing tennis, and just keeping them active after school. We have been using the park for the last few years to get this program started. And we charge about $175 per student, which includes all of like the court usage, the tennis balls, the uniforms, the travel, and giving some scholarships for some students to participate in the program. And at that price, we are not making any money on it, and we are just at a break-even point if we get the course at half price. Just wanted to give you a little background about St. Thomas. Like, we are a parochial school. We are not a private school. We're a 501(c). We have about 340 students. 90% of them are in the Fairfield area. A large portion of them are down in this beach area, why we tend to use, and as close to the school, the Veterans Park court. We have about 25 to 30 students that participate in the program. And,
Just to add to Lori, so I'm part of the sports committee, so that's why I'm here. So, we're not training Andre Agassi here. These are just kids coming after school. I'm part of the basketball program as well. We do this really just to give an outlet for kids. I think a lot of, the kids like to do stuff after school. And we get out pretty early, so 2:30 to 4:30 is our time. It's a 6-week period. I think in the history of our program, we didn't see a lot of competition for the courts. Of course, it's a town's court, so we are asking to use it. But if you guys could help us out, it just keeps the sustainability of this program. We don't want to raise the prices to our parents, because most of our parents really, they're paying tuition, and when if we raise it, we're worried that we're going to lose a lot of the kids and to introduce to tennis.
do you have any questions?
Anyone have any questions? Jamie?
First of all, that obviously it's a great program for after school for the kids, and commend you for organizing that. And can you give me a history of what your rates have been for the program for like the past, say, 5 years or so? Just have they gone up? Have they been just stable?
Yes. So the program is more of in its infancy stages. I believe we're in our 3rd year, possibly 4th. But we have consistently raised the price, but not at last year was our biggest raise where we increased it by over $25. So each year we are, and we, again, moved it up to $175 this year. And so I think it started really at like $100, and each year we moved up to capture these costs. Again, volunteer, like run by parents.
Yeah, our sports program is, heavily parent involved, maybe to the detriment of the teaching.
Yeah.
But we're just really trying to get the kids out there and play and give them something to do after school.
We do hire a pro because we don't have any coaches on staff, so that's part of the fee too. But again, intro to tennis to get them to come full circle. Many of the kids then sign up for programs with Parks and Rec over the summer at the Bubble and things like that. Just getting these younger kids involved.
Okay, so you all remember we had a lengthy conversation last year, at which time we did agree to the 50% discount, but it was for the 1 year, and we said you have to come back next year. I am very much opposed to agreeing to anything in perpetuity. So I certainly, just one vote, but I will not be supporting a permanent reduction in the fees. It's a democracy here, so we'll all weigh in what we feel about the actual amount of the discount.
Can I ask a query? And I don't know how the logistics of how the committee works, and so I think we made this request. Can you do it can you do it like at a 3-year period, or so? Is there any way to change that, or once you put the request in, it's kind of set? Or you guys can decide that?
Yeah.
You guys decide today.
There's a request on the table.
Yeah.
For that request to move forward, someone has to make a motion, got it seconded, and then by a majority vote, it has to be approved. If no one makes the motion, then the request on the table is not approved, but amongst ourselves, we can come up with an alternative solution to your situation.
Lovely. Thank you, Brian.
The other issue that we have, and while we certainly appreciate your situation with the children and the majority in our Fairfield residents, we rent out the various spaces, we rent out fields, and a lot of the organizations that use our facilities that will rent out Jackie Durrell or different places are charitable organizations. So we really do have to be careful with regards to the approval of either waiving fees, discounting fees, or because a lot of what we do sets precedent, and we approve a discount or waiver fee today for this very worthwhile organization. Tomorrow, someone else comes in and says, "Oh, wait a second, I didn't know we could ask."
Totally makes sense.
So, but I'd love to hear from other commissioners, see what they think.
Have you looked into any other measures to potentially make the P&L a little more attractive, like potentially asking the professional instructor to maybe take less money, or what else have you done other than coming here to ask for a reduction to make this a profitable program?
Yeah, well, one, it's not a problem, it's just a break-even program from our perspective.
Yeah.
But the pro is at a reduced rate already. We had a family donate uniforms, so we're trying to keep the cost as low as we possibly can.
Well, one thing I note here is, team party. That to me is, a cost that I don't think should be a part of, because we're talking about tennis instruction, and listen, I'm all in favor of a tennis party. I do it with all the teams I coach, but it's always out of pocket.
Yeah.
So, I just wanted to get an understanding of some of what you're doing to make this break-even profitable.
Yeah, and so the team party is like pizza at the courts after it, so it's not like It
It's not
can be a
Six Flags.
reduced,
It's
yeah.
not Six Flags.
Yeah, it's, it can be, that could be a cost we can reduce, but again, it was just like having some seats at Veterans Park on the last practice.
Yeah. I also share Brian's opinion that approving something in perpetuity is I wouldn't support that, but if we're talking about a certain period of time, then I think that's a different story.
Yeah.
Jamie, then Mattei?
Okay. What other programs does St. Thomas run after school, and do they use other Fairfield town facilities?
So we have a smaller sports program that includes basketball, tennis, golf, and cross country. And so yes, they do use.
They use for the golf. They use the par 3 course and the driving range as well. There's, I think that's, I don't know, do we only have a ball?
Yeah, all the same.
all the same.
And then the basketball, they do use some schools.
So we use for practice during the week. We use some of the schools. Although I think we're trying to bring that all in-house. Actually, it's a lot easier to use the parish gym. And the parish and the school are different too. Just I think when we were introduced, we were the church. We're actually not.
And then we have something called the Beyond the Bell program, which is all after-school activities. Range from anywhere from like art classes to singing to all, which is literally again like not for profit. It's just a different professional. They come in and use our facilities or host at their facilities.
Yeah. Do you know whether they get any preferred rates for like golf or the gyms or anything like that?
Golf, they do the same thing as the 3 middle schools, which I don't know what that is off the top of my head, but I know they get the same as the public schools for golf anyway. I know they play at the par 3. Other sports, you'd have to ask Galen, who's here. We have Galen, so she can speak to any permit field stuff for you.
I'm just curious whether any of their other
We don't have any
programs
baseball or
use
soccer
the
programs.
public facilities, the Fairfield facilities, whether they have special rates or whether they pay normal rates.
Yeah, so the Board of Ed, like Ludlow High School, Ward High School, there's no rate whatsoever. Fairfield Prep does pay $75 an hour. And then the only other private school that I'd ever worked with was St. Thomas, for the cross-country program and then tennis. You're aware of the pricing there. Yeah.
Prep pays $75 an hour for what?
So they rent baseball diamonds at Owen Fish and Thompson.
This is Bridget. I have a question.
You okay?
Would as residents, would they technically be able to take turns just reserving courts for that 6-week period, seeing as though there's typically not a ton of competition at those times, and they just take it week by week?
Galen?
Yes, any Fairfield resident can book up to 2 hours twice a week, up to 2 weeks in advance at no cost. And you don't need a hold harmless or certificate of insurance either.
Is that true? Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
That is still true.
It's not true. We don't allow we don't allow instructors for private programs like that. So essentially we'd be turning a blind eye to that.
And there's an insurance.
Got it.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. So that's kind of what I wanted to get in. I wanted to verbalize my recollection of the history of this, and I do that with the hopes that people will correct anything that I get wrong. Because if I remember correctly, this sort of came to us. Unusual is probably the wrong word, but in a different way than typically we would deal with this in normal circumstances. My recollection from a year ago or so was that we sort of discovered that this particular program had not been paying the fees that other programs had been expected to pay or had been paying for past several years. They came to the board to discuss whether or not we would continue to offer this for free. My recollection is this board agreed for 1 year for 50%. I remember I had a proposal that said we wanted to bring them up to 100% over a 3-year period of time to give them, the ability to adjust. And I remember proposing moving to 75% this year, but we agreed to stick year by year on this. I'm not sure if you are aware of that background, so I'm sure
No, that's
partially why
okay. That's good background.
That's partially why I'm verbalizing all of this, so we're just all on the same page on this.
So almost 100% spot on with it. It came to light over the 3 years of the program because residents called Galen and wanted to know why a private school was on the courts when they wanted to play.
Thank you.
But that was ultimately what happened, and everything else, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, during the COVID period where the courts were in higher demand, yeah.
So are other schools renting the courts, private schools? Parochial. Are we different?
We're not private, but
Like we're not-profit.
yeah.
Right. So we are trying to make that distinction that we're nonprofit.
Galen, do you know, do any other schools, private and or parochial, rent?
No, the only other schools that rent space for tennis courts is Ludlow and Ward.
Well, I think for our purposes, we're not distinguishing between nonprofit or any other entity. It's like you're competing with many other entities that want to rent courts, right? Now, I think there could be an argument to be made that based on time and things like that, which we really want to break out the algorithms, we could probably figure out. I think from, as Brian pointed out, much of our customer base are nonprofits by nature, and so it's just not something we've been able to distinguish between.
Give me one, Jen, and then Bill, but one question I'm coming back to, okay. I'm reviewing the minutes from last year, and it does specifically say that you felt there should be a gradual approach and should be trued up over time. Do you recall, did you make the suggestion last year for a 3-year?
I did, but the consensus was that we would just focus on the 1 year and allow them to propose.
This is solely your opinion, but the minutes did not capture your suggestion that it was 3 years. And I don't recall.
I think I suggested a 50, 75, 100%.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
That's what I was wondering, if how specific it had been, so that's it.
Okay, good.
And is it specific construction, or do you guys compete against other schools as well?
We tried to do a friendly match with another school, and we had one last year on their campus through a connection front, but no, so we.
Okay.
Anything else?
I mean, those courts are really underutilized. I lived on Roland 25 years. I don't think I've ever seen anyone there, you know. There's 2 courts, right?
There's 2 courts. Yeah, the timing, they usually are empty.
Yeah.
I think that's why, we walked on for that year with nobody contesting or no interest in it. But once COVID hit and, with outdoor activities and people were looking for the time, I think that's where it came to light. And again, we're not here saying we don't want to pay for them, but we're just trying to be very cost conscious. And again, we could all go and stand there, prior to 2:30 because we're all residents and wait to get on the court. But we want to try to do it a little bit more organized and organized.
My opinion is I think it's found revenue for the town because they're not being used for those time slots, so 50% is better than nothing. So I would be in favor of the 50% reduction still.
Which was a point made last year, that it was, in prior years there was nothing, and then to get 50%, I think we calculated it to be $1,800 that we were collecting.
Yeah, okay. 1,800, right? 24 hours at $75.
All right. So, first off, does anyone want to make a motion that the request for a 50% not-for-profit discount annually for the Veterans Park tennis courts?
Yes, I will.
You're saying annually in perpetuity?
That's the request. Yeah. So the question is, does anyone want to make, and David has made a motion to approve. Anyone want a second? Hearing none, the request for the 50% discount in perpetuity is not going to fly. So now the question is, we can open it up if anyone wants to come up with another proposal, whether it's the 50% continuation of what we had last year, or 75%, or anything else. If someone wants to.
I'd like to make a motion.
I'd like
50% reduction for a 3-year period starting this year.
I'll second.
Okay.
So just review what we're voting on, please.
The request is to continue and when you say 3 years, not counting last year, 3 years, this year, and the next 2. So the request is to continue the 50% discount, or the motion is to continue the 50% discount that was in place for 2022 for 23, 24, and 25. And this continues to, if this goes through, assuming the same hours of usage.
Correct.
21.
Yeah.
Can I propose a different solution, or do we need to vote on that before?
Well, you could propose an amendment to the solution.
So I would amend that, we approve it for 1 year, and then when you come back next year to make the request, I know it's a hassle, but, we're here every month too. I would like to kind of see the numbers, not that I don't trust you, but the math isn't really making sense in my head. If, you got $5,200 in revenue, $1,800 for the court, I don't really know what balls and all that stuff. So I would be willing to approve the 50% discount for 1 year, provided when you come back, we can take a look at, how's this program doing.
I would second that, Dylan. This is Bridget, and I can elaborate if that's okay.
Okay. Well, back to the original motion.
Well, he's amending the motion, so I think we can put on.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
Okay. So we have to.
Or I could just withdraw my second. Whatever. Yeah.
Okay. So we have a amended motion with second. Any discussion with regards to this?
Well, my reasoning in siding with Dylan is that just seeing as though right now there's a rules subcommittee, maybe this is something that we can take a harder look at and not wait until next year to make another decision on this. Just with regards to maybe off-peak hours at our facilities in general, if that's something we wanted to tackle, it like you said, it's revenues for the town that we probably aren't already getting. So what are we possibly missing out on by not approving these types of things?
Okay. Did you have a comment?
Yes. I think I also support what Dylan's amendment, because I think 3 years out is a long time, and part of our role is to really help Anthony safeguard his budget and obviously make the facilities available for all the town residents. And I think it's hard to 1 year and understand. First of all, will there be a reaction from other nonprofits that will come towards us asking for similar things, and then it becomes a much bigger issue, but at least if we take it year by year, we can approve or change it based on the environment of what we're facing as a town.
Yeah, I agree. I would support that. I would not support the 3 year.
Yeah. So I would say this in regards to either the amendment or the main motion. I think Bill and what Bridget pointed out as it relates to revenues to the town is a fair point. I'd also say that is moving us more in the direction of not quite a quasi-market-based model that we are not currently set up, to my knowledge. to actually implement. And so I think that there's greater repercussions that needs to be considered if we want to go down that path. I could support that path, but I think there has to be a lot more homework done, and Bridget pointed out, maybe this goes to the Rules Committee to consider as something that is, I mean, it would be sort of an overhaul on how we do not just tennis, everything, right, to be consistent. And so I just think, like, let's do our homework, let's do all the right work that needs to be done to make the right decision, and maybe a more quasi-market-based approach, I'm going to continue to call it, does make sense for the town. But let's demonstrate that first. The only other thing that I'd say, too, is, like, we're having the same debate that we had a year ago. We've been in this situation before, not on this particular issue, but with other issues as well. And I do think as a commission, like, we need to stand a little firm by what our original intent was when we do this stuff. And so I would be more supportive of a 25% discount like I had proposed a year ago. And I will leave it at that.
Okay. So we have a proposed amendment to the motion, which is to offer the 50% discount for 2023 alone. All those in favor?
Wait, I'm sorry. Before we vote, I just think, because by us voting, it does not formalize anything that Bridget suggests as it relates to the Rules Committee and things like that. And so we either need to amend that or...
Well, the proposal is only for 1 year.
Correct. Well, what I'm saying is, a year from now, we could be in the same position if we don't do anything. Okay.
I agree with what you're saying. We can be, but I also don't know if we necessarily need to include in the motion that the Rules Committee is going to address it.
They're already supposed to be looking at it. That was one of the main reasons to create the subcommittee, was to look at field usage itself and adjust the rates accordingly.
If you feel that we need to include that in the motion, we can go back to, Dylan made the motion if you want to amend to include that, but I honestly, I don't think that we need it, but I mean, if you feel strongly that we do, as Anthony said, that's one of the primary
part of the charter.
Bridget?
Next on the list.
Just remember to include that in the Rules Committee.
Yeah, Jamie's the chair.
But just important in that motion is that they're, showing us the numbers so that we can get what the program
We'll bring the numbers. We have no problem.
Yeah.
We're full transparent.
I have no doubt.
I have one more maybe suggestion for you is make sure next year, if again, we'll finish this up, but I think next year come to us before you have to finalize your rates, just to be ready for whatever.
This is the spirit that we made the decision last year, was we were supposed to get ahead of this before it came to the vote. It was supposed to be negotiated in advance before we got to this point. And so that's why I have no concern of, like, let's not do the same thing over again.
Any other comments? All right, then I'm going to get back to the motion, Dylan's motion, which is to employ a 50% discount for 2023. And then the Rules Committee will consider this, and then you're going to have to come back next year if you want us to consider it again. All right? All those in favor? Bridget?
Yes.
You're a yes? Okay. All those opposed? Good. Okay. So that passes. And David, did you want to just withdraw Your second on the initial?
Yeah, I did. Okay.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Appreciate your
Thank you.
efforts and volunteering. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Don't let Father Martin play with you.
I don't think you will.
So, second,
Bridget.
Bridget second, that's right. Okay. Next up, we have the Jennifer Butler and Mike Foley on behalf of Friends of Fairfield Public Library to host the 7th Annual Food Truck Festival fundraiser on Sunday, September 10th of this year, 11 to 7 p.m.
Anthony, Karen, Commissioners, thank you so much for having us here today. My name is Mike Foley. My wife, Jennifer Butler. We live at 697 Hollydale Road, Fairfield, Connecticut. We are here as board members of the Fairfield Friends of Fairfield Public Library, which is the main fundraising arm for our public library here in town. As mentioned, this is our 7th year using Jennings Beach for the Fairfield Food Truck Festival. Over the years, we have raised over $60,000 for the public library. That has gone towards everything from a mobile media lab at the library to a PA system and many other functions and programs that the library has used to benefit our residents here in Fairfield. You'll note that the date that we're requesting, September 10th, is about 3 weeks earlier than we normally do the Food Truck Festival. The reason why is if we did it normally at the first weekend in October, we would be competing against the Sound Out Sound Music Festival in Bridgeport, which, as we know, has just announced some very big music acts, and we would be hard-pressed to get a lot of people at our event. September 10th would also avoid the Jewish holidays out of respect, and we have enjoyed the cooperation of everyone in the community for this event, and we have always been appreciative of the Commission's support, and we would formally request the use of Jennings Beach again this year.
Kelly, September 10th?
Yep, it's good. Fine.
No races or anything?
Nope.
It's a rain date for Lincoln Park and Palooza, though.
Opposite end of town.
Any questions, comments? Yes, sir.
How many people usually attend?
When the sun is shining and we don't have gale force winds, we'll do about 4,000 people. 4,000 includes children, though. So we ask a $5 donation of adults, and children 12 and under are free. So quasi-paying people, about 3,000, but on a good day. Of course.
So when we first started, the first year we had no idea how many people we'd be getting, so we had an enormous, we had over 4,000 people the first year.
And they ran out of food.
They ran out of food. Yeah. So that has luckily never happened again. We, this past year, we also aren't requesting a rain date this year, which is something we normally do, because the calling between, the managing the trucks, asking for trucks to give up 2 weekends potentially, and then saying, oh no, never mind, it's really difficult management. So we were looking at the date of September 10th because it's a little bit earlier. We think we might stand a chance for some better weather and less conflicts with other things going on. But as far as the attendance, we have gone anywhere from 4. Last year we didn't have as many people because of the rain, which never came. But it can be anywhere from 3 to 4+ thousand, but it's over a 7-hour period, so it actually has flowed very, very well over the years, other than the first year when we ran out.
Is it rain or shine?
Yes, this year it is.
We've requested rain dates in the past. We've never had to use one. The logistics of having the truck come back the following weekend is just too difficult on their end. They can't commit to it. So we're just going to forego the use request a rain date.
But if it rains, you're just going to move forward with it?
It's a good question. We've never had to confront that issue. We came close last year. I think what we would probably do is defer to the trucks, and I think they would probably pack it up and go. And we'd just have to deal with that. And this is the type of event where people open their front door. Let's go. They open their front door. It's raining. It's bad weather. We're going to stay home. We don't pre-sell tickets. Well, we do a little bit of pre-sale, but there's almost no point to the rain rain date. And if we were to get some bad weather, we would make our best attempt to pull it off, but we'd probably cancel.
If you did, well, first of all, thank you for leading this effort. It's important to raise money for the library, especially in this day and age when truth seems to be lost for some reason. But so I see music. Are you going to continue the co-sponsorship, or has Anthony? Have you guys made a decision on that?
We haven't discussed that yet, but we will. we will discuss it.
So in the event of rain, do you have any upfront costs that you would potentially eat, or not really, because the trucks, you're not paying the trucks until they arrive?
We would not be in a money-losing situation at that point.
Okay.
We don't pay the trucks. The
Yeah.
trucks pay us.
They don't, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So they would pay us. And then what we tend to do often is if we actually talk to the trucks and say, how did it go for you? Was it a good day? Was it, if you have a hot day and you have an ice cream truck, you're great. But like last year, we had cold weather, so we had 2 ice cream trucks. They did miserably. So we would cut that truck a deal. So we have the potential to lose money with bad weather, but we're from the truck, but we don't put out any money that we would lose if it falls apart.
The only scenario I can come up with is we do hire a police officer.
And that's a commitment. That's a pre-commitment. I don't know what
it would be an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
Hey, would you guys mind refunding us?
Yeah.
I think I have done events in the past, and I don't think you would have to pay that officer. I would check it, but I don't know that you would have to pay.
Okay.
What was my question? Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Right. Well, we'll come back to you.
I was going to think about that.
It's a general question. So you're doing this as a fundraiser for the library. Where does the library get the majority of the funding? Is it from the town?
The Friends Board raises money a couple different ways. This is the biggest fundraiser for the Friends. Our One Book Run Town event, which is soon to happen, raises a little bit of money. We do a mini golf event.
That we pay for that. We actually, the Friends sponsor the One Book One Town. So the Friends sponsor things outside of the library, the town's budget for the library. So there's specific things that the town will pay for in the library's budget, and if the library has a request, they come to the Friends Board and say, we would like to update the furniture and the team, and the Friends completely sponsor the One Book One Town, the author, the renting of the facility, the whole. They give the library, I believe it's $10,000 to $11,000 a year to do that from the fundraising.
So in general, the library operates on the town budget, but
absolutely.
So you're really raising money for improvements
for other things
ancillary costs
that also get cut from, like they can't make the budget or that are outside of the budget that are and they're particular things. There are things that the town will always pay for. Like we don't buy books. That's the town's business place.
So there's a return on the investment of the Parks and Rec.
Very much.
Oh yeah.
Return to the town. Okay.
How come you don't pre-sell tickets?
We do a little bit of it. We in years past we've pre-sold wristbands at the library itself in the weeks ahead of time. We don't get a ton of activity around that. Like I said, we have found that while it is a very popular event, it is an event that people decide to come to that morning. So, and it's also a donation. So we don't do a hard sell for folks. We don't say to people like admission is $5. Please consider donating $5 to the library today. That's that.
No, we're a hard sell. You don't get in if you don't pay. But we've actually had people hand us a $20.
Yeah.
And we're going to give them the change, and they say no, it's for the library keeper, which is awesome. It's really nice. Very few people, except that one that wanted the $5 back because somebody ran out of bread. But other than that.
Who will be providing the music at the event?
Last year was an aberration because so few people turned out because of the weather. We had a lineup of 3 bands. We're probably going to do one. I think this year would be advisable, less costly, and then I don't think having that many bands really brought too much.
It didn't bring enough to
the event itself.
Really say this was great. I mean, the Zamboni's brought a lot of people, brought their group of people, but other than that, I think the other bands weren't a draw. draw. I think you get more of a draw if you had somebody who really wanted to just get some air to perform. They would probably bring a handful of people, and they bring a handful of people.
The draw, the real draw is the trucks.
Yeah.
The food truck business is evolving. People work so hard on their trucks, and they get burned out after a while. So you see, what we've noticed over the past 6-7 years is that first wave of food truck owners have now sold their truck. There's a new wave of truck owners coming in. We're always on the lookout for unique and new trucks to come to the event. We've already lined up, how many would you say?
No.
Yeah, but there's all kinds of different new people coming into the business, and we're always happy to invite them, and they've always had a good experience.
The other thing that we don't do, and a lot of food truck festivals do, is sell alcohol. We don't do alcohol. We make this like a family-friendly event. We focus on it being come after a game with your kids, come after church, kind of like come during the day. Your wristband's good all day, so we actually have people come for lunch and come back for dinner because they're in that all day. The trucks tend to be really great. We have a lot of interesting ones lined up this year because we're trying to work ahead a little bit, and they have always given us the feedback that earlier the better because of the weather. So we were feeling that if we went for the September date, they would be happier. Well, yeah, we have 4 trucks that have gone out of business in the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm. Would anyone like to make a motion?
So moved.
Okay. That's it. All right. Any further conversation? Anything from the public?
You're all invited.
Back to the commission. All those in favor? Bridget? Bridget?
Yes.
Okay. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
You have to stay for the rest of the meeting.
Sounds good, Mike. Thank you.
All right. Next up, Jeff Goki, excuse me. Jeff Goki, on behalf of Tennis CT, requests to raise the summer tennis pass holder rates. Jeff.
210 Old Dam Road, Fairfield. I said to Anthony, I don't think I've been to the commission since over 10 years. Yeah. So we haven't raised the summer rates in 10 years, and the rates to the town keep going up. So
10 years?
Sorry?
I'm sorry, 10
At
years?
At least 10.
Okay.
Yeah. So I thought it would be a good time to raise the rates 10%, basically just to cover some additional costs that we have to pay for our lease.
All right, thank you. And I was going to ask how long it's been. You note that it's not been raised in a year, so that's thank you for sharing that. And also thank you for what I believe is a very fair, reasonable 10% request. Is pretty reasonable after this amount of time. So any comments, questions?
Yeah, so I generally am in line with you on, I mean, I think the increase is no brainer. I'm sort of curious, how did you arrive at the 10%, and how's that going to compare with, comparators around the area?
Yeah, we have another facility in Norwalk, and that 10% gets us to the same price that we're charging at Oak Hills and Norwalk. So we wanted to be commensurate with.
Got it. Thank you.
And sensitive to that.
All right. Any other questions? Anyone like to make a motion?
Make a motion.
Okay. Second?
I'll second.
All right. Any further conversation? Questions? Anything from the public? Back to the commission. All those in favor? Bridget?
Yep.
All right.
Thank you all very much.
Thanks.
Take care. Okay. All right. Next up, Reverend Sean Kulat.
Something like that.
Correct.
He's not available.
Oh, all right. On behalf of the Holy Family St. Henry's Parish, request to hold their annual carnival at Jennings Beach on May 17th, 18th, and 19th of next year, with a setup starting May 13th.
Okay, I'm Dave Purcell. I live at 484 Stilson Road.
Brian Parisi, 58 Youngstown Road.
Standing in for Father Sean.
So we're here just to secure that date for 2024, that same weekend we always had. Just move forward on that. I'm not going to have it this year, but that 2024 would be the date to continue.
Okay. Kelly, in the notes, there was some talk of other people requesting. Was that Riverfield?
Yes, but Riverfield decided it was only going to be for 1 year. They didn't want to move it to take over the beach for this year and then have to go back to Riverfield next year. So
okay, so there's no conflict with
no.
with these dates.
Correct.
Okay.
I think they spoke to our office on getting the beach for this year. I'm not sure whatever became of that. We're not having it this year because there was a conflict with the carnival company that we had, I guess with some residents down there. So we're looking for a new company. Hopefully we'll have that secured for the 24 season.
So besides the fact that there will be a new carnival company, everything else is
the same.
Going to be the same?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions?
Just logistically, is the May 13th, is that, I know we do carnival, is that a normal sort of allotted period of time?
We try to do it the last weekend. I think it's the last weekend prior to Memorial Day weekend, which then there's no carnivals after that until after Labor
But
Day.
your question was the amount of time, the 13th to the beginning of the carnival.
Between
yeah.
the 13th
Correct.
and carnival.
As opposed to the date itself, but yeah.
Unless there's something going on. Usually that's, you guys will remind us if something is hanging over from the week before or someone needs it for that day.
And then the cleanup and...
Yeah, and they're out.
You're aware of the
usually
rules.
within a few days. I mean, the previous company would take all week, but we're hoping to get a more professional operation in there.
We don't allow for a few days, do we?
Well, that was the issue. That was part of the issue.
I mean, there's a time restraint because I think on Sunday evening we have to get out by 9 or something. So whatever they don't get done, it goes into Monday, possibly Tuesday. But some people were dragging it on the entire week. And then it's not only the deconstruction of the thing, but then the transportation out all week kind of annoyed the neighbors.
Okay. Anything else? You guys don't have to wait for me to ask. Someone wants to make a motion, jump right on in.
Is this for 2024?
Yeah, 2024.
Oh, we're really getting far ahead. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think we secured it for 23, but if I'm right in saying this, I think our office let go to Riverfield School.
I'm sure that all that's right. I just want to make sure it wasn't a typo.
We're just trying to set the precedent for
Good precedent.
Well, they can take it away from us.
Yeah. I get it.
Okay. So back to the commission. Bill?
Make a motion.
Making a motion, okay. And do I hear a second? Anyone? Ben? Thank you. At the top. All right. Any further conversation? Questions? With that in mind, all those in favor? All right. Bridget?
Yes.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ken.
We hope
A year from now.
might be back next year.
Okay, and so Mr. Glad is on the phone with us? Okay. Ryan Glad requests to install a boat lift in slip I-26. And Justin, you're on with us as well?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes. All right, Mr. Glad, if you could explain your request.
Yes, Parks and Rec committee members, thank you for your time and attention to this.
I am requesting to install a Guardian boat lift into slip I-26, like you had mentioned. The lift is identical to the Guardian branded boat lift that's currently installed in slip I-50. The lift will be attached via lines to the dock and pilings, and I'm familiar with the Parks and Recs rules and regulations regarding winter storage, and I will reach out to Justin to make arrangements for that at the appropriate time.
Okay, any questions? Can you explain, I'm not a boater. Can you explain how this lift works? Like, just explain to me like I'm a kindergartner.
Sure. It's a free-floating lift, so it's not physically bolted to the town dock, and it uses air. There are 8 air chambers in the lift, and it uses air to fill the chambers up with air to lift the boat out of the water, and it keeps the boat out of the water so that no growth gets on the bottom of the boat.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Is that the primary reason that you're installing this, so the boat's out of the water?
Correct. Yeah, that is the sole reason.
Okay. Justin, besides the lift in I-50, are there any others down there?
There are. So there are 2 existing lift type mechanisms that physically lift up a boat. One is the Guardian that Mr. Blatt was talking about, and another one I believe was a hydro hoist model that no longer is manufactured. And then there's another system that's in the marina that's referred to as a jet dock. So a jet boat can use that to slide up on top of it to, again, keep the hull of the boat up and out of the water so that there's no growth on the hull. So this would be the 4th lift in the marina.
So in all cases, this is for the purpose of keeping the boat out of the water. It's nothing to do with safety or anything like that. It's just to get the boat out of the water.
It's to keep the boat out of the water. You could easily make an argument that it is a safety aspect as well, because when the boat's on the lift, there are less ways for corrosion in the intakes and things like that that could cause an issue later. But it's a thing that not everyone in the marina does.
Can I have a reminder on? I remember we discussed a boat lift issue last year. I don't really remember what it was. Why do boat lifts have to come before this board?
The lifts requests come before the board because they are relatively infrequent. It just happens to be, I think the last 2 years we've had requests. One was shifting over, was a new person getting one, and one was getting a different list, if I remember correctly. So it just happens to be the way that the calendar is that we had 2 requests in a short period of time.
And
that's not answering your question.
But I think the main reason is because we don't allow anybody to really modify our docks.
But this is free floating.
Correct. This is a separate thing. So yeah, but I think because it's still in the lift category that we still say, you know what, let's just bring it before the commission so everybody's on the same page. If we didn't, then somebody's going to come. Another boater is going to complain that, hey, why does he get to have that, and who approved it? So.
Justin, do you have any concerns with these types of lifts? Do they impede on anybody else?
No, these lifts are predominantly on the north side of IDOC, the quote-unquote premium dock, so that they are less likely to impede on other vessels.
Okay.
This may seem like a silly question, but is it unsightly? I mean, I just picture the panorama of boats floating in water and picturing them all up. I don't know if, I'm not saying it's relevant, I'm just wondering. That picturing if everybody started doing that,
Yeah.
wouldn't that be an undesirable panorama?
I think aesthetics gets into the eye of the beholder, depending on the different boats. So I don't know if I can answer that on that front, but I wouldn't say it's any more or less sightly than some of the other boats that I've seen in our marina and other marinas.
I would think yes, but
I'm sorry, Joe, I know you said this, but how many boat lists do we currently have?
We currently have 3.
3, okay.
And this would be the 4th.
Got it, thanks.
That's correct.
All right. Any further?
I'll make a motion.
Okay. Bill, keep looking over there and put your hand up, so thank you. All right. Any further questions or discussion? All those in favor? Okay. Bridget?
Yes.
All right. Ms. Glad, you're all set.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I still can't, like, it's floating in the water. You put the boat on top of it and it lifts up. Why doesn't it not sink?
Why do I have this feeling it's going to become an issue? I just have a feeling. I don't know.
Maybe Sandy comes around again.
All right. Next up, Board of Ed report.
It's fairly quiet right now. The Board of Ed budget was approved by the Board of Selectmen with a $500,000 cut. It's now before the Board of Finance. So they had lots of questions. The vote, there's the public session, which will be on that last Saturday at Ludlow at 9:30 in the morning, and I believe they vote the following Thursday, the 30th. But other than that, very nice. Anyone wants to recognize some of Fairfield's athletes at 7 o'clock last night. We had almost a full half hour, and it took a full half hour to recognize just the winter sports that have been FCAC champions, individual champions, and it was just, the room was packed and overflowing with all the student athletes, and that was with a lot of the student athletes missing because unfortunately there was a competing concert, I think it was Townwide Orchestra concert at Ward that night. So it was just pretty.
And Ward basketball is playing right now, right?
I know, kill me. I was trying to get live updates.
Boys or girls?
Boys.
The
girls
are in the finals already this weekend.
Ludlow girls, yeah.
Right.
They're undefeated, aren't they?
They are undefeated, going up against undefeated Hamden.
And unfortunately, Ludlow is missing one of their top players.
Yes, she is. So she went down.
Caitlin?
Kaylee.
Right. And so, but it was just a tremendous display and really nice to be able to recognize them like that. And so that's pretty much it. Happy to take questions.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you. And then Director and Program Report.
All right, everybody should have an advanced copy in front of you. I want to start out with, I believe Justin is still on the phone, embarrassing Justin a little bit more. Justin was recognized by the Fairfield Police Commission last week for his actions in this past October, where he helped save 4 people on a sinking boat off of Penfield Reef. So, again, super proud of Justin. Love having him as part of the team, and
Justin.
We expect this kind of work from him. So
every weekend.
Yeah, exactly. So great job, Justin. Other than that, upcoming stuff that we have over the next month, we've got our Beach Bunny 5K. I know Galen is here, so she's been working super hard on that. I know she's still looking for volunteers. If anybody's available, and just reach out to her, let her know. Right now, there's over 700 runners signed up for the actual 5K. Another 500 or so signed up for the egg scramble on the beach.
Wow.
So it's a great turnout. I think we're just trending on the numbers that we had last year. We should exceed those, which is awesome. So as long as the weather holds out, it's going to be a great event. April 22nd, we've got our community cleanup at Jennings Beach, in celebration of Earth Day. So again, Chelsea leads the charge on that one. We had a really good turnout last year. We expect, as long as the weather is nice that day, that we'll have another great turnout. And then we get into the budget season. So our budgets have all made it through the Board of Selectmen. They're on to the Board of Finance. I presented last night for about 2.5 hours to about 11:45.
Lucky you.
Lucky me, to the Board of Finance. They had lots and lots of questions, and I gave them some feedback on that. And we'll see. They vote on March 30th now, and then once they approve the budget, it'll then move on to the RTM, who will look at it in April, and then they finally will vote on May 1st, and then we'll have our budget for July 1. Capital projects, I had mentioned last month that we were going forward with trying to get funding for 4 capital projects. They included the Tungus Ball pickleball courts, which included redoing 4, and then actually from the master plan, adding the additional 2 that was thrown in a little later. It might have even been after this meeting. Replacing the Fairfield Woods tennis courts, replacing the Dwight tennis courts, and another project that was added in was the Sergeant Murphy playground. All 4 projects were approved by all 3 bodies, and we are hitting the ground running. We should start seeing work on Tungus immediately, and then right after, well, hopefully simultaneously, the Fairfield Woods and Dwight tennis courts. So very excited about that. Sergeant Murphy, I would assume we will start sometime in the summer. We've got to order the equipment from the company, and then we'd like to have all the stuff done by the early fall, which would be great. An update on Roger Ludlow Middle School turf, just so you guys can hear it from me. We are still in the design phase. We obviously had hoped to break ground way earlier than we are right now. When we presented that project, the goal there was to put lights on that field and fit as many multi-purpose fields as possible and make that field as playable as possible. Once they got the designs put together, they gave it to the lighting engineers. Lighting engineers looked at it and said, we can't light this appropriately because the field is just too large of a space, and with zoning laws and regulations, you're not allowed to have any spillover off your property lines. And we were having a little spillover onto the 95 property, which is state property, but that's a non-starter for ZBA. So the engineers had to go back to the drawing board, and the only thing that they can do to make this field fit with lighting is to remove the baseball field. And I know that's going to be a point of contention for the baseball community, but again, we weren't building a varsity baseball field for varsity baseball games. So when it came down to looking at the overall design, the lights for us were the number one priority, because the lights give us extra field time where the turf only gives us inclement weather time. So the lights were the more important factor here. So we'll be able to fit everything else, which includes the softball field, which could be doubled as a little league field, football, lacrosse, soccer, field hockey, essentially all the other sports. Doesn't mean baseball can't play, can't practice on that in March, like they're going to have to do this week, for the high school. So while it's disappointing for us and it's delayed the project a little bit, I'm glad that it's getting hashed out. But we're still in the design phase. We're shooting to get on to have the designs ready to be on ZBA's agenda for early April. Once we have approval there, then it will go out to bid for construction. Realistically, we will be breaking ground in the fall. Most of these construction companies they line up all their projects for the summer when there's no school in session. So most of them will be finishing their summer project, and we should be able to have a good competitive bid for somebody to start the project in the early fall. And then obviously we'll shoot to get that thing ready as quickly as we can, which would hopefully be for the spring season. But again, it would depend on how mild of a winter we have.
Is that, has that information about the elimination of baseball been publicly announced?
So it has not been publicly announced. I have spoken to the head baseball coach at Ludlow, so he's aware. I've spoken to the athletic director at Ludlow, so he's aware. I've spoken to the director of operations. I don't even know what his title is, Mr. Papa George at the Board of Education, so he's aware. But no, I have not reached out to the one group of baseball parents that has continually emailed, and the RTM member that continually emails me.
The reason for my question, because there was so much push on that.
I wanted to make sure before I had even said anything publicly that I knew for a fact we had exhausted every avenue to try to include that field.
And we are now at that point where
We have, right.
So the decision has been made to eliminate.
Correct. And now they're working on the designs to move forward with the multi-purpose field with the lights minus the baseball field.
And so it would be safe to assume that the representatives that you spoke to have not communicated.
Correct.
With that.
I've asked them not. I've had asked them not to let that get out of the bag yet because I wanted to have the conversation with them so they could freak out in their own time and kind of come to terms with that. Then bring it to you guys. Let you guys all know. Now that I've said this publicly and the word will be out there, I'll reach out to these groups tomorrow to let them know. Hey, I don't have the final design, but I do know we've exhausted every avenue for the baseball field, and it's just a no-go for us.
Good luck with that.
I don't know.
Can you clarify that who is benefiting from the lights? In other words, with this trade-off, we should clarify where is there a pro to this?
So the pro ends up being primarily in the fall when it gets dark at 5 o'clock. Now we can keep the lights on, and whatever group we have there. Again, we weren't doing this for the schools. Schools have always had the time from directly after school, 2:30 or so, till about 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock on has always turned over to Parks and Recreation programming, whether that was at that location, FUSA, Fairfield Youth Lacrosse, football, the other youth organizations. So theoretically, nothing will change for the high school. They'll still have till 5 o'clock. Now we'll be able to put recreation on those fields until 9, 10 o'clock, depending.
As coach, I think Dylan will agree the lights are going to be very welcome.
Very well.
Very
So
welcome.
that is a question that I was going to ask. I mean, you just said 9 or 10 o'clock.
So
across the street, we limit it till 8 o'clock because of all the neighbors. And
Correct.
There's not
So
much of a conflict there with the neighbors. So is that the intent?
So I think what we should do at some point, and I'm not saying I don't think we're at that point yet because we don't have lights there, but I do think at some point we should set a time on the lights.
Mm-hmm.
Down at Hayden, Sullivan, it's 10 o'clock is the light limit. I believe it's 10 o'clock at both of the high schools with exceptions here or there.
They're on really late.
It does seem like they're on really late, but I do think if we went back and looked at some of the agreements, again, I think we'll see that they're supposed to be only till 10 o'clock. Again, I'm not saying I think we want to be consistent, but even 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock still gets us 3 hours every day in the fall. So
I do think we do need to address that and pick a time.
Yep.
We've had the lights on at Hayden occasionally. If we're playing softball and we're in extra innings, it will go.
We'll go right on. Yeah. But and then just one other update I want to give is on the splash pad at Lake Mohegan because the Board of Finance was asking me about that. So all the new equipment is in finally. The fencing is up. The only thing that still has to be completed is the actual surfacing, and that will be completed in April and early May as soon as the weather is warm enough for the surfacing to go down, but definitely in time to open on Memorial Day. So we're looking really good there.
That's big news.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you guys are all aware, First Selectwoman Kupchak had that meeting at Ludlow talking about Penfield, and this decision has been made to move forward, or at least request, and it's made it through the Selectmen and the Board of Finance to remediate underneath and rebuild. And so now it's just got to go to RTM.
So it'll be on 20th. It'll be at the RTM during their committee hearings, which is where they'll get the presentation. They won't vote until the following week. That's how the RTM works.
So that was my question. So the following week, so that will be separate from what you discussed about.
Correct. Completely separate from the budget process. Yeah, $11.5 million has been allocated to the Penfield remediation and FEMA notice of violation issue.
So I know it's $11.5 million, but I saw that they went for the $10.5 million approval through Board of Finance, and $1 million is just money that we already have.
That they already had put aside, yeah. Okay. Yep. Actually, I believe I believe most of it, if not all that money, has already been put aside. I don't believe any of it will be bonded. It's all money that they've been kind of storing away for remediation projects. I think they were arguing over or discussing $3 million essentially was what they were trying to figure out. Do we bond this? Do we use surplus? Do we do this? And I think ultimately it ended up that they weren't going to bond any of it, and they've got the cash on hand to move forward. So yeah, we'll see. Nothing will happen if it does get approved by the RTAM, which we're hoping for. Nothing will happen until after this summer. So now they've asked me and the staff to look at opening the building and stuff for the summer, meaning concession, bathrooms. If somebody wanted to have an event, we'd have to figure out how to do that. But it's not a big issue for us. It's just a lot of moving parts.
Okay, figure out how to do that. Put it on the calendar and collect a fee.
That's what they tell me. It's easy. Anybody can do it.
It's tricky with all the parties that canceled this summer.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Okay, thank you. All right. Go to the order. Anything?
I was just curious how's the summer camp enrollment going? I'm on too many social media sites.
Summer camp registration went fine. The big issue, and I told you guys during my the last month's report, was the Board of Ed central office had pulled all the majority of, I think, 5 of the 6 locations we had and switched them on us because of HVAC issues, roofing projects, things of that nature. So the sites we ended up with accommodate the same number of kids that we've historically accommodated. We had the same number of kids register that we always get. It's not like we've got extra kids registering or less kids registering. Just more. Some sites were more popular than others. So Mill Hill in particular has 100 and something kids on the wait list. Of those 100 and something kids that are on the wait list, 80 of them are already in another camp program, but they want to be at Mill Hill. We can't just open up Mill Hill to another 100 kids and make 300 kids at that school, even though they can do that during the school year. When we're planning field trips and things of that nature, most of the places can't hold that many people. So 200 is where we cap out our camps, but on the other side of that, we've got a location like Dwight where we've got 50 kids registered. So now we've got to make a decision, well, what do we do with those 50 kids? Do we cancel that camp and allocate those kids somewhere else, or do we just run a camp with 50 kids? It's something the staff's going to have to figure out over the next several weeks. So.
One question about Dwight. Sorry. But I have thought that part of what the subcommittee and the master plan, I thought they were holding on anything with Dwight construction-wise until the Board of Ed piece came in place. So I was surprised to hear that. I'm sure I knew it before and I forgot.
Yeah, so the tennis courts were actually approved almost 2 years ago.
Okay.
We ended up, I think that was in 21, we got the funding for that. We held on it because we wanted to bid that at the same time as Fairfield Woods and Tunxus Hill, so we would hopefully get better pricing. We wanted to package them. So that was why. So we were still going forward with the tennis courts there, but we're not adding the pickleball there at the moment because, again, they're not going to give me money now knowing that there might be a closure or some big change happening there. So, yes, nothing will happen at Dwight outside of this project until the Board of Ed decides how to move forward with Dwight.
Yeah, and the subcommittee did move from the master plan. They were from BL, Dwight was on in phase 1. Because of the lack of knowledge of what was going to happen, we moved it off of what we were recommending as phase 1 into at least phase 2. So who knows if we get any of our requests in phase 1 moving forward. But with regards to that, we should talk about DDLO and getting someone out there to take a look at that.
Yep, we should.
Is Smith Richardson open this week? Or?
Did you get a call back from Bob?
I did not. I did not.
That was the goal, was Friday, but we hadn't heard from Bob today.
On the website, it says
so.
still closed. See
I
you.
know, I checked today.
And you can't book a tea time. I tried to do that.
And it's going to be 60 degrees Friday from what I hear, so people are going to be chomping at the bit.
Yeah, we've been getting calls.
Yeah, right. Sneak out, yeah.
All right, if nothing else, we're adjourned.
Thank you.